Lesson number 1, elements of a story, fiction. So when we talk about elements of a story, we're talking about different aspects of the story that when they put it all together, gives us the meat of our story, such as plot, exposition, setting, characters, rising action, conflict, climax, falling action, and resolution. Let's look at plot first. Plot is a series of related events in the story. This is the organization of main events in a work of fiction, and they'll trace some process of change where the characters are caught up in a conflict that is eventually resolved. Plot is the what happened of the story. So let's look at the plot diagram. First, we have exposition, followed by rising action, which leads to our climax. We then go into the falling action, which leads to our resolution. So let's look at exposition first. Exposition is the background information that sets the scene in the story. This usually occurs at the beginning of a story. The characters are introduced. We learn about the setting of the story, and it gives us other necessary facts and information for us to be able to understand the story. There's a couple important parts of the exposition that we need to have, such as the setting, and this is the time and place. This is the when and where a story takes place. Next, we have the characters. And characters are the person, animal, or thing the story is about. And there are two different types of characters. There's a protagonist, who is the main character, and they're typically a hero. Then we have the antagonist. This is the character who's in conflict with the protagonist in some way. This is the bad guy in the story. Then we have our rising action. This includes all of the events that lead to the climax. And it also presents some type of conflict. Now, when we talk about conflict, this is the struggle between two forces in the story. And conflict provides interest, suspense, and tension in the story. There are 4 different types of conflict. The first is character versus character. This is where 2 or more characters have a problem. Then we have character versus nature. Characters have to fight against a force of nature. Then we have character versus society. This is where a character is fighting against the rules of society. Now, these 3 conflicts are external conflicts. They are happening outside of that character's being. The 4th conflict is character versus self, and this is where the character is dealing with an internal struggle. It's usually some kind of a moral struggle. This then leads up to our climax, which is the high point in the story. This is the turning point of a story, and usually the main character comes face to face with a conflict, and the character will change in some way. We then go into the falling action. Now, these are the events that lead to the resolution. All of the loose ends of the plot are tied up. The conflict and the climax are taken care of. And we then go into the resolution, which is the solution to the conflict. And this comes at the end of the story. This is telling you the story is going to be ending. So when we put it all together, our exposition and rising action are the beginning part of the story. Climax is the middle of the story, and falling action and resolution are the end of the story.